probably the question that I get asked a lot is, how do you start a Charlotte Mason education? And the simple thing is, you just start. You're not going to, I really don't think at the end of a school year, any one person that is just starting out with it is going to be able to end their school year and say, I completely follow every method of a Charlotte Mason education. And if you do, hurrah for you, but I think you're in the minority, not the majority. So because of that, I think a lot of people don't get started because they really don't, they're looking at the end rather than the whole elephant, rather than starting with the bite, basically. So I will tell you how I started, because when I started making videos, it wasn't at the beginning of my journey, and it wasn't at the huge point in my own journey. I am still trying to work more towards that, and I'm not going to be there, and I probably won't be there until John is 18 years old. John is almost 2, so that gives you an idea. But that's okay, because it is not a curriculum that you follow a step-by-step thing. It is a method, so you're learning to apply everything and figure out what fits best for your family. Okay? I'm trying to think of a better way to say it than method, because I think that really does confuse people somewhat. And so if you go back to the core of what Charlotte Mason had as an education, it was an atmosphere, your home, your environment, a discipline, the moral habits that help you attain all of these things in life, the true education, and it's a life. It means that you're going to be learning forever and always, okay? It doesn't end when you turn 18 or when you graduate, if it's earlier than that. So if we go to that, and then we can start thinking of school in that aspect. That being said, I've talked about how I had a Charlotte Mason education. I have never turned from a complete textbook school setting. I've never had that education. It's always been around the dining room table and then free time in the afternoon, which is a huge part of a Charlotte Mason education. Short lessons, free afternoon time. And because I don't have that memory, that's not the right word, but because I don't have that experience of textbook only and must answer tests, other than outside of my college education, which it was 4 years out of entire school, out of an entire childhood. It's not something that I really know how to say, how to transition from this to this. I don't know. I didn't. Everything has just been natural to me. And that, I don't think that means that what I am sharing with you is not going to be relevant to anyone that maybe hasn't been in this situation. It just may be that we may have an easier time to explain to you or show you how to comprehend because we're passionate about it, because we don't know anything else. I don't know. But I do know that a lot of you are encouraged, and I just want to keep that encouragement flowing, especially when I still day after day think, am I doing this right? Would they be better off in school? I still have those moments. So this really is just those simple steps that you can start doing anytime. Even continuing your curriculum-based programs, your textbooks, you can still stick with those and still start implementing a Charlotte Mason education. Starting with those 3, education is an atmosphere, discipline, and life, okay? Make your home a learning environment. Go outside and make it a learning environment. Don't say school is just these books that you pull out, answer questions to, and put away. If you start with that, you're on the right track. One of the students that I have now had that mindset for so many years, because in school, even today, a lot of school children, if they don't have active parents, let me put that caveat there, if they don't have active parents, then a lot of times they go to school, they come home, they do homework, school is done, it's video games. And yes, I know people like that. So I'm not that sheltered, and there really is people in there. It's not it's not that. It's not when you put everybody into the same box and say this is how life is. I'm saying I know people like that, and that's their education. Education is homework, school, and then video games. And they don't consider anything else to be relevant in their life. And the problem with that is then you don't have the mindset of that you have to learn for the rest of your life. You talk to them about that, and it's just like this, huh? And I'm not saying like 6-year-olds. I'm not quizzing 6-year-olds. I'm having conversations with children that are my daughter's age, that are my sister's age, so even older, and it's just this, huh? They don't know how to have a conversation. So you have that mindset that, hey, we can learn going to the grocery store. Let's learn about all the different fruits and where they come from. How is this important to me? Well, how do we know what our bodies need to adequately live on? Do you know how to cook? That is a life skill that you're going to want to know. Do your kids know how to cook? Can your kids learn from themselves? Can they research and figure out fact from just stuff thrown out? You know, something that's not based on truth. Are they going to take it at face value, or are they going to research until they can find the truth of whatever it is that they're looking at? Okay, so that is your atmosphere. You're giving that to your children. It's your life education. Well, what about discipline? If your children realize that discipline in the moral habits to be the good citizen that we need in our country today, people that will help make our world a better place. It's not going to be a perfect world. I get it, okay? But we can help make the world a better place. We can contribute to society, not just with our work, not just going to the grocery store and holding the door open for somebody, but making the effort to go to city council meetings. Things like this, all those kinds of things. Those kinds of things you can still start today, where if your children's in a school, if they're homeschooled and textbook-based, those things you can still implement to start a Charlotte Mason education. So moving on, then it was short lessons. That's going to be a little bit more difficult if you don't have control over your child's scholastic education. If they're at public school, you're probably not going to be able to say short lessons are the best lessons. But let's look at this in a home aspect. How many times do we lecture our children over and over, repeating ourselves over and over and over about the same thing again and again to try to prove home a point? Rather than saying, this is wrong, don't do it. We have to go into a huge explanation of why. I'm not saying you don't ever do that. But go back to the short lessons principle. Less is more, okay? Stick to the basics of why they aren't to do something, because it's wrong. And it's okay to say, because I said so. They're recognizing authority, which guess what? If a boss tells you to do something, you're not going to be able to turn around and argue your point of view. You're going to have to submit to your boss's authority. However, a good boss is not going to be a dictator, so remember that as a parent. But you're not going to be able to argue your point of view. You need to be able to submit to that authority, and starting with them being a child and you being a parent. Teach them to submit to that authority. Even if you are a boss of your own company, you still have to submit to some authority. And if the child cannot learn how to do that, then that is going to be the hardest thing for him to learn in the rest of his life. He has to undo everything. So learning that, short lessons in that way, just teach them because I said so. Don't abuse it, but it's okay to use it once in a while. This is wrong, don't do it. You don't necessarily need a long explanation. They will figure it out. Kids are pretty smart. And honestly, most of the time they know it was wrong. But you're enforcing it. If a child slaps another, that was wrong, don't do it. That's all you need. And probably some consequences over the fact that he just slapped another human being. Anyway, moving on. So again, short lessons, you can do it in a homeschool environment. This is something, again, recently picked up in the last few months. Do a Charlotte Mason education in the fact that try to keep the afternoons free for the child. Another thing we learned about Charlotte Mason education is you want to go outside for 6 hours. Dude, it's already like 85 degrees here and it's the beginning, like April 2nd. I'm not going to be outside for 6 hours. But if I could, if I had the stamina for it, and yes, I'm building that up. My allergies are going crazy. Mulberry trees in my front yard are blossoming and I'm going insane. I would be spending 6 hours outside in my garden, supervising my children, being there with them, being outside with them. Working on that, not there, but in order to do that, wouldn't we have to get all of the academic schoolwork stuff done in the morning? Yeah. Short lessons, free afternoon. Another Charlotte Mason principle, done. Alright, next one, living books. Oh my goodness. Do you understand what a living book is? Because sometimes it seems that it's going to be really complicated. Is this a living book or is this a living book? This is shorter, so it couldn't possibly be a living book because this is going to provide more information. Not necessarily. A living book needs to have a source that knows what it's talking about. So if a person is writing about France and never has visited France, never really studied anything about France, but is saying that everything happened in France in this way, but you have Paris outside Marseilles and things like that, you're going to have issues, okay? Obviously, I've never been to France because I have no idea if what I said is even accurate or even remotely opposite. I have no idea. So, I would not be a leading authority on France. So, that may not be a living book. Does the author speak passionately about the book? A textbook doesn't necessarily speak passionately about a subject. It's just, boom, here you go. Memorize it. There's a test on it later on. This is what you need to know. There's not really a passionate thing about what he's writing about. What book did we just finish? Across 5 Aprils, I would consider that a definite living book. He managed to put the facts that a textbook would do of the Civil War into a child's perspective who is reading accounts in newspapers, finding it on maps. He's giving the information through letters. Now the kids were kind of like, is it ever going to be done, Mom? Because it wasn't living to them. That kind of information, probably at this age, was a little too much. That's okay. To be honest, at the end, and I was giving it to David, the kids were like, oh yeah, Dad, and blah, 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 blah. So apparently they got something out of it. So, okay. Those are the living books. The author needs to know what he's talking about, needs to be passionate about what he's talking about, and you, the reader, need to be able to relate to that book. You need to, I don't like using the word feeling so much, but you need to feel like you're a part of the story. Alright, living book. So, probably one of those cheap little Frozen books is not a living book. That would probably be Twaddle. However, for my 3-year-old, she might be right there next to Elsa singing Let It Go. Is it Elsa that sings that, or is it Anna? Whatever one sings Let It Go, okay? I've never actually seen the movie straight through. Anyway, so you've got your Charlotte Mason education, now we're added in living books. What else? What else would you start with the Charlotte Mason education? The Feast of Ideas, okay? And that is all I'm going to stop with. Just get those things going. The Feast of Ideas is stuff that gives your child a plethora of things that he could, how do I want to describe it? But basically, it's not just going to be math, reading, writing, not arithmetic, math, reading, writing, science, history. You don't just want to stick with those. What about leather crafting? What if you have the really next great journal maker, bullet journal maker? What are those things called? The traveler's notebooks. What if you have the next great one to do that because he found a craft that he really liked doing, but if it was never discovered, you have no idea. An artist, okay? Let's study the artists. Let's study their lives and see how they came to this point. Because you know what? Maybe you have a child that will gather something huge from that you can take away from it, okay? So let's do that. Musical instruments. Oh my goodness, I was a clarinet teacher. Yeah, I was a clarinet player, and I'm not going to say I really wish I kept up with it, to be honest, because it just wasn't possible. Yeah, I wish I could, but it wasn't possible. We didn't have any. We were kind of out of teachers, and at that point, I had gone through I think 4 or 5 teachers in 4 or 5 years. There just wasn't a good one for clarinet students in this town. So, but learning an instrument is something I wish my child could do. My husband can play the piano beautifully, and I would love to hear my children play the instruments. My son wants to do cello. They've done guitar. It's beautiful listening to them. My Jane Austen heart wants to hear, the spinet going in the background. So give them those things. Those are great things to have. And you know what? All this diversity that they can do keeps them in a diversity mindset. Isn't that kind of what we want? No, it's not a 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, you've done all this. You're going to have this perfect mindset for the rest of your life. No, that's not it. Sorry. Done. You're cultivating. But it's like those tools in a toolbox. Like, okay, we want to create, I don't want to say we want to create a child. No, we want to expel from the child, kind of draw out from the child something that's already in him. We're not creating a child. That child is created. We're just trying to draw out who he is and be able to give him those tools to help better that person. And that's what you're going to do with the Charlotte Mason education. So you can do it for the most, somewhat, okay, with a schooled child. Just do it with what you can at home. You can do that with a homeschooled child, and as you learn, still keep your textbook studies going. It's okay. Or you can do it from infancy, and continue their education up until college and on to life. You can do it where you are today. Isn't that the beauty of a Charlotte Mason education? You just start where you're at, and you just start going. And I think that's the hardest hurdle to jump. It's always that first step. It's a cliche. It's a cliche. That first step is the hardest, but really it is, because there's so much information. It's like, okay, which way do I go first? You just step. And then you start doing a little bit at a time, and that's all I'm doing. That is all I'm doing. I don't have the beautiful Instagram pictures to show you. I just have real life. And trust me, sometimes I'm like, well, that wasn't a really good picture, but you know what? It's there, and I can enjoy it, and I can look back on it. And sometimes I post those pictures because it's a rough day, and it's like, you know what? There's still hope. There's still beauty in every day. We can still find the beauty in every day. And Charlotte Mason wasn't perfect. She was a teacher. She wasn't a mother. But her principles is over a long period of research and study that we moms don't get to have because we're in the midst of it. So that's what we're doing. That is what we're doing, is we're just applying those ideas little bit by little bit as we can, when we can, and build up to being the perfect mother and raising that perfect child to the best of our ability. Okay? In the end, a good citizen is what we're looking for of the earthly, of earth, and of our heavenly kingdom. And we're giving them the tools for the rest of their life, because we're not going to be there, and we can't teach them everything. Nobody can. So they need to learn for themselves. So that is my Charlotte Mason education video for you. I know it's been a while since I've done one, but I've been reading a lot and kind of chewing on it, meditating on it, and now I am sharing with you just some stuff that I've put together in my mind over the past few weeks. I hope this video is enjoyable for you. I know I have a playlist of all the videos that I've done so far. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your children. Honestly, if I could say I have any platform, it is that I want everyone to enjoy their children. They are a gift, and they're precious, and they're born persons. So, alright, I will see you in my next video, and until then, have a great day. Just have a great day. Bye.